Welcome to my chess opening series. Today I want to look at the Nimzo-Indian defense, which arises after the moves d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4. Pioneered by Grandmaster Aaron Nimzowitsch, the Nimzo-Indian defense is a very popular and well-respected defense to 1d4, and has been played by every world champion since Capablanca. By pinning the knight, Black strengthens his control of the e4 and d5 squares, and also threatens to double White's pawns by exchanging on c3. He will often play b6 and bishop b7 to further control these central squares. White has a surprisingly large array of options here. I will go from the least popular to the most popular of the notable continuations. After 4g3, Black's most popular response is to challenge the center with c5. Now White normally plays knight f3 when we have reached the Kasparov variation by transposition. C takes d4, knight takes d4, knight e4. This is the most popular way to play in recent play. Black wants to exchange material. Queen d3, and now queen a5 is an alternative, but Black normally plays bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, knight c5, queen f3, d6, with about equal play. Bishop g5 is the Lenrad variation. The main line runs h6, bishop h4, c5, d5, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, d6, e3, e5, which is shown to be quite effective for Black. This accounts for the declining use of this variation. Black will often play g5 to break the pin on the knight, which further clamps on the f4 square. He often will not castle kingside, sometimes moving his king to c7 via d8 after the queen moves. a3, the same-ish variation, is a highly aggressive option. The main line runs bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, c5, e3 castles, bishop d3, knight c6, knight e2, b6. A typical plan here is to target this c4 pawn, which is difficult to defend. Black might play bishop a6, knight a5, rook c8, and all piling up on this pawn, and you can see that the pawn starts to look very uncomfortable. Play might continue e4, and now Black should move out of the way of e4 to e5, knight e8, castles, bishop a6, f4, knight a5. Black should be at least equal here according to Rybka. f3 is known as the Georgiou or Shirov variation. And now c5 is also possible when d5, b5 leads to Benoni-like positions. Instead, the main line runs on move forward 4d5. a3, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, c5. C takes d5, knight takes d5. Now Black's attack on White's center compels White to play d takes c5. Trying to open up the position for his two bishops. White will play e2 to e4, and Black will want to prevent White from further expansion by playing e5 at some point. A possible continuation is queen a5, e4, knight e7, bishop e3 castles, queen b3, queen c7, bishop b5, knight ec6. When Black is ready to push e5, Black has compensation in that White's doubled and isolated c-pawns really can't make much of themselves, and if one of them is lost, then the other one will still be isolated. Grandmaster John Ems believes Black has equalized here. Another move is 4 knight f3. This is the Kasparov variation. And Black's most popular is d5. This transposes to the Ragozin defense of the Queen's Gambit declined, which is beyond the scope of this video. The most popular move that stays within the Nimzo-Indian is 4 c5. And now White has a number of choices. g3 transposes to a line we've already looked at, and another move is e3, which transposes to the Rubenstein System, which we will look at next. So 4e3 is known as the Rubenstein System, and now Black can play c5 after knight f3, knight c6, bishop d3, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, d6. This is the Hubner variation. e4, e5, d5, knight e7. Black argues that white's two bishops aren't very strong in this closed position. Instead, he will try to use his knights to good effect. This line is generally considered to be equal. However, the most popular way for black to play is back on move 4 by castling kingside. Bishop d3, d5, knight f3, c5, castles knight c6. Actually here, d takes c4, bishop takes c4, c takes d4, e takes d4 is Karpov's favorite line for black. This variation has built up a lot of theory, but knight c6 back on move 7